Here we go. Greetings to you. I'm Elton Brewington from Brightside, and we are here today with, I have the privilege of two great authors and also people in the media, and they are sharing with me and our audience discussion and viewpoints on important topics. I have Mr. Michael Kutza from Starstruck. He's written the book, and he is here with us to share with us his perspective and from the Chicago region. And I have Mr. Robert Patrick Baker, a foray into Hollywood. Authors, both are authors. And we were talking and briefly discussing what this strike that we're involved in now is having an impact on our entertainment community and people who work in the community. And so we're just taking some moments to see where this could go, what the impact on our economy it'll have, and also what it means for the future of people who work in the media and bring a really important and dynamic value focus on. I mean, somewhere I was seeing where the impact zones, and this is throughout America. Wow, we're talking about billions of dollars on the American economy. And I see where the governor Newsom got involved on the West Coast. And I don't know if the governor from Chicago or what, I don't know, but from maybe politically, people were involved in those areas. And because you're talking about jobs, you're talking about real jobs, and you're talking about the economy. And so let's just dive right in. Dive right
Well,
in.
it's interesting. I used to work with so many film festivals in the world, including the one I started in Chicago. But right now, the Venice Film Festival is about to open next week, and they would rely on their red carpet for all of these major Hollywood directors and stars to start the promotion of the new film that would be coming out in the fall, and then up for the Oscars. And Toronto's coming up, and all these places. But in theory, the unions are not allowing them to promote the product. So, Robert, these are your clients, and their mouths are shut, and they can't really go out and promote what's about to happen. So you have this cancellation of film openings that will happen in the fall. It's just this cycle is it's quite unfortunate for so many reasons.
Uh,
Yeah, I agree. I think it's a very delicate balance for sure. I think with the new technologies and some of the complaints I've heard from friends and just associates has been the fact that, I think you mentioned earlier before we went on air is that, people getting paid for the streaming services and that kind of thing. And also
Right, right.
the you're getting paid, because they want to, basically video the talent and then be able to artificially use their name and likeness in future productions, and they want to be paid for that as well, and that's not on the table either. So AI is definitely has embedded itself in the industry and the value of it. So they have I think, a big challenge going forward in terms of the how to properly monetize and make it balanced and equitable for everybody involved.
Right. Who is actually doing the negotiations of the two sides?
Well,
Where is
yeah, it's there's a team of people on both sides, but I think the leader is Fran Drescher on one side for one of the organizations, and then you
But
have the
wasn't she replaced though? Someone else
oh
came.
yes, that I believe so. I think she was. I think she's now maybe working more as a consulting capacity as opposed to the lead negotiator. But I haven't really been like I said yesterday. There was news about the leak of the that upset the other side. I guess about protocols that should be in place in terms of negotiations. They should be kept private, but somebody released it publicly yesterday. which caused a huge setback. So, you know, it's again, it has to do with what we were talking about earlier, you know, the AI and being paid for streaming services, which is a different market than when they first initially did their original contracts. That wasn't something that they even had to talk about. So these are new emerging businesses that, you know, they should, I feel they should renegotiate and put a fair and equitable contract on the table. But again, you know, corporations is the stockholders in the bottom line, and they have a fiduciary duty to the stockholders to keep the stock healthy. And so they're trying to squeeze every bit of profit to those stockholders.
And of course, the problem is we have value. We both are. We know how great we are, but are we really worth $178 million a year? I mean, I know, hey, I feel I am.
Well, yeah.
But how do you, I'm out of work now, these actors and writers, yet the boss is getting $200 million. How,
I agree.
it's a killer. It's a killer.
Well, see, well, these conversations are, I mean, the conversations and the meat and potatoes, because if you don't have extremes, how far we'll go left, how far we'll go right, or a center point for evaluating what, you know, can be agreed upon. And so, you know, we're coming up on, I don't know, what is the time frame? Almost a year? It's not a year yet. What is it?
I think it started about April, didn't it?
Yeah.
I think that's about right.
So I mean, and this is a very important industry as it relates to our national economy. And so, you know, how, I mean, tourism in Los Angeles is going to hit a real drag. And I mean, throughout the country, and then New York will suffer. I mean, New York just got back on Discovery for Broadway. So, you know, so what's next?
Well, you know, even in Chicago here, where Hollywood sort of started, we still have a giant film studio that's making all these television shows, all the Chicago PD and all that stuff. You've got about 78,000 people that are not working just here in Chicago alone. Imagine the numbers in New York and California.
That's big. I mean, you talk about people that now don't have salaries. And, you know,
Correct.
Correct. Well, it's an emergent. It is a very dire situation. I was, like I said, speaking to a neighbor this morning. I was out walking the dog, and in my neighborhood, it's all industry people and directors, writers, and they're all, you know, saying, you know, basically the same thing. You know, it's being very tough. They're, you know, having to go into their savings and pension to get, you know, pay the bills, and some are actually talking about, you know, selling homes and doing whatever they need to do because it's just they're taking a hit. So it's a very, very huge issue across the board, and it's a trickle down effect with all the vendors that service the industry, like hotels and lighting houses and you know,
the caterers, the whole thing, you know.
Caterers, exactly.
But we're gonna take the front road and the front road lead, because at some point we will get back to normal, I guess, and normal could mean, you know, that they resolve the conflict with AI and a fair position regarding that. And then also when it comes down to writers and scripts. And so, but let's just deal with you guys. You have your authors. You've written books about the industry and the escape of that. So if we can, let's just evaluate what could be next. Let's start with you, Michael. You've written an incredible book here, and the industry will not go away. It's just too big to go away. You know, so
well, I think we should both do the backgrounds of who we are. So
that's right. That's right.
Robert, I want to know who you are.
Well,
I'm sorry.
I want to hear who Robert is. You go. You go first. Come on. You go first.
You want me to go? Okay. Well, basically, I'm Robert Baker. I'm started my book basically a foray into Hollywood. I started out small. Came from a small town in South Carolina. Grew up dreams and aspirations to be in the entertainment industry. I was a professional magician. Started doing magic back home, and then that kind of led to me moving to New York and then to LA to pursue my dreams in the industry. My first big break came when I produced my first movie, Payback with Ed Asner, starring Ed Asner, Mary Tyler Moore for ABC. And how I got to that point was I was in New York, I started out acting and dancing and all that stuff, and was met a young my first movie, met a director named Danny Matmore. He gave me my first break as an actor, and we became fast friends after the movie and started writing together. And we were sending out our scripts from New York to LA, and it landed on the desk of a company called Jackson McHenry. They produced the movie in New Jack City and a bunch of other movies, George Jackson and Doug McHenry. And so they liked the script. I wrote basically, and offered me to come out and say, if you come out, we'd love to meet with you. And so I did, and they offered me a job doing coverages for their projects. And that's how I got my first kind of big break. But that I moved, I had to be out here to do that. So 6 months later, when I moved out, that position wasn't available. So they said, keep writing, blah, blah, blah. I enrolled at UCLA Film and TV program, started doing internships, and worked all over NBC, CB, all these different places, and found my first project actually working for Unsolved Mysteries, doing going through the mail and finding projects that were basically cinematically proper for on-air stuff and for on-air production. And that's how I found my first project. There was a project that I found that the company didn't want, and they said I could take it. And so I wound up optioned into that project. It was a true story, which turned out to be my first ABC movie, Payback with Ed Asner, Mary Tyler Moore. And then from there, did another project for CBS called Double Jeopardy with Joe Penny and Terry Garr and Brittany Murphy. And that landed me a first look deal at Warner Brothers with Bud Grant, the ex-president of CBS. And that's basically kind of my story. I was there with him for 4 years, and then after that deal was over, then moved back. My ex-wife now was running a dance facility. We were able to purchase it, and then became CEO of that company for the next 30 years of my life. And that's kind of the Reader's Digest version of my story.
Your dance studio is well renowned, and
yes,
great things in that area. And I appreciate that.
It's funny. The dance studio is called Millennium Dance Complex, and we basically wound up. The studio became this global brand. I basically took what I was doing in the movie industry, marketing, promotion, and applied it to the dance business. And we wound up, servicing and had clients. The biggest pop artists and dance artists in the world were some of our clients. Britney Spears, Janet Jackson, Michael Jackson, Usher. You name it. They all came and became our clients. So I spent the last 30 years working in that industry with those talents. So it's that's kind of the trek that got me from point A to point B. But of course, the book kind of goes into a lot more detail about that journey.
Very good.
That is the most exhausting story I've ever heard.
Trust me.
Imagine him living it.
It's exhausting. It was still exhausting.
Imagine him living.
So I'm assuming you now put all of this into the book.
Yes, it's in the book. Yeah, everything's in the book. The journey, the people, there's probably I'm in the process of probably going to do a revision of it at some point, because there's still more of the story. But I did a pretty all the stuff I just mentioned is in the book.
Very good, very good.
Okay, so let me give you a whole other story of a different kind of guy.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm from Chicago, born on the West Side, in a family of doctors. Mother, father, aunt, uncle, cousins, everybody is a goddamn doctor. So where do you think this is going to lead me, right?
Yeah.
So they assume or demand that you're going to be a doctor. So I ended up being a filmmaker and a graphic designer and founded the Chicago International Film Festival 55 years ago and ran it into the ground. Not really. So I decided to write a book about this whole experience of the studying to be a doctor, but actually making movies and designing and starting the festival. And it's a strange story. So I decided, people kept saying, well, you've helped so many people in their film career. Why don't you put it all into a book? Which is what I did. But let me back up a bit. The strangest thing is having doctors, and I started the festival when I was 22 years old. Having, let's say my mother, okay, my mother was OB-GYN in the 40s. This is unusual for a woman doctor. And she traveled the world with her lady doctors, but she always had a movie camera with her, 16 millimeter. And she'd come home and she'd say to me, here's the camera. Make this into a movie. The lady doctors are coming over on Sunday. I'm 8 years old. So I'm starting to make movies. My dad, who's a surgeon, he collected movies and Charlie Chaplin and stuff he could get his hands on. So here I am, supposed to be a doctor, going to school, pre-med at Loyola, and making movies and designing and becoming a doctor. So what happened along the way? I started to make short films. I started to enter them in festivals when I was about 19 years old. And then I started to win awards when I'm 20 years old. And suddenly I'm entering my little films in Europe, in Poland, in Ireland, and France. And I win an award in Cannes at the Cannes Film Festival, which for students though. And I come back with this little movie, and I realized by that time there's a whole world of film out there that my city, Chicago, doesn't know anything about. And I decided from that point on, I'm a Chicago kid. I want to change Chicago. And of course, I'm still studying to be the doctor, remember, because I have to appease them. Of course, while I was doing the pre-med, I was also directing musicals and designing for companies. What can I say? I killed my parents. I broke their heart, and I became famous.
Okay.
Then I made a book.
Oh,
Then I put it all into a book.
Wow, that's awesome.
That's
I
awesome.
can't
That
wait
is
to read
awesome.
your book.
So now we have the privilege of a third person online with us. And he's written a book. He's here. And there's Shep McKinney.
One sec, we're going to stop recording.